Breakout sounds just innately good because I think it means breakout. But, I mean, it could be breakout. Is breakdown, would you use the word breakdown if you meant breakdown?
Right.
You
breakdown would be to the downside, breakout to the upside.
Because it's been a long time, Kate. We've been, and I think, there have been times when it got a little dicey where you were talking about support levels probably holding and then resuming an uptrend.
That's
right.
So
we haven't necessarily made any money, but there's been times where it's gotten a little scary where you were right about it not breaking down. So now you think it's consolidated enough to where the next move will be higher?
I think we'll see a little digestion here very short term. There are some overbought conditions to contend with as we test these resistance levels, but the levels are so close by for not only the S&P 500 but major indices around the world. That was just a tiny bit of follow through on the upside. We'll see a lot of breakouts, and I think that's important to note.
And in your work, how much does a synchronous breakout with a Bovespa, something that doesn't seem to have any effect on what we're doing here because we think we have a domestic economy. Does it really matter that are they correlated?
Yeah, they're positively correlated, generally speaking. We do want to see it be broad-based. That just shows breadth behind the move, global breadth in this case. The Stock 600, as one example, is approaching final long-term resistance around 400. That would be a major, major breakout for it. We're having emerging markets, if you look at something like EEM, test a long-term downtrend line, so that's exciting too. So just with a little follow-through, we'll get those breakouts.
I'll tell you what's frustrating is I always want to try to tie some fundamentals to what would be causing that, or if it were to happen, like you're saying, it kind of means maybe some other things don't happen. There's a lot going on between now and next year in 2020 and the election about whether we're in a slowdown, whether there's a recession, whether a recession could bring in a change in the executive branch on which parties are running things. So if you're bullish and you think we're going to break out, I want to extrapolate to what that means, that we're not having a recession, therefore the prospects are maybe better for a second term. I don't know how to do that.
Those would be natural drivers for a continued uptrend. And those things that
if there was not a recession.
Exactly. So a positive economic outlook, an election that's favorably perceived, that type of thing. Now, you mentioned several things creating this sort of, I guess, tug of war for the market, and that's what's created the trading range that we've been locked in.
And the trading war, trade war.
That's right, the trade war.
Causes the trading range.
That's exactly right. And the breakout needs some kind of catalyst, probably fundamental or macro. I don't know what that's going to be, but to me, as long as we see that confirmation, spend a week or so above these important levels, that's where I think you can get more aggressively long. We're already seeing some sector rotation that's very promising. Notice, of course, the cyclicals are gaining some traction here in relative terms, whereas staples and utilities and REITs, those yield-sensitive type names, are taking a little bit of a back seat here, and I think that's important as well.
They were in the front seat for a while.
They were for some time.
Now that, because we just had someone recommending them again earlier in the show, staples and defensive issues.
They've lost momentum in relative terms, so the uptrends are still very solid in those areas. And yet the pullbacks that we're starting to see in some individual names are really creating that loss of relative strength.
All right, so when do I get excited? What do I need on the S&P? 3028?
3028 is resistance. That's the final, summertime highs. Basically, need to see, I'd say, at least a couple of days above that level on a closing basis. That's your breakout, and then the target from that breakout becomes around 3120 with a relatively short-term time frame, and that's based on a measured move. So you're just assuming the trajectory of the current trend will maintain itself.
Any idea of leadership there? You said probably the cyclicals.
Cyclicals, right? Some rotation into financials for one. We're seeing some base breakouts there, which are pretty exciting, helped by earnings season. Technology still is very solid in a long-term uptrend, even despite the loss of relative strength behind the software names.
And the lows on the 10-year are in?
For now,
yield,
I think we can say that for now pretty safely. The long-term oversold condition seems to have generated improved intermediate-term momentum.
Can I ask you a technical call on Boeing?
Do you do the individual?
I can kind of picture it.
Is there a technical call on Boeing?
You know, it looks like a little bit of a shakeout. So when you see a stock gap down like it did and then kind of trade right back up into that gap, that tends to be indicative of a shakeout. It also didn't take out a major support level that was close by. I can't remember the number, but it was
92 or so, down under 300.
There's the chart. Because we've all been sitting around thinking, when's the worst of the news out?
I kind of told you to buy it today.
He's claiming to buy it today.
Well, I told you when we were down 7. That was sort of what I was alluding to. That it's not about earnings, right?
Right, but I was suggesting that next week there's more headline risk because Muhlenberg's going to be in D.C. He's going to be testifying on Capitol Hill.
She's got a glazed look now. These are all these are fundamentals. Like she's like, who?
That's like the real world.
Right.
Well, listen, I want to see it stabilize near support. That would be the convincing factor for me. When you do see the gap downs, usually you get a few weeks of that kind of churn, and that's important because that's where the accumulation happens.
Awesome. Cool. Katie, thank you. How often do you come on?
Not often enough.
No, I agree. We'll put it on the calendar because there's times when, especially in the middle of the night where I really have questions.
Feel worried, right?
Yeah, worried questions. I get
That's what I'm here for.
Anxiety.
Do you have anxiety while you're sleeping?
I've described this. The first thing both of us think about. First, you wake up and it's like, okay, and then it's like,
pick up your bucket of worries again.
Yeah.
Me
yeah,
too.
that's today. Or yeah, that's happening. You don't? You do.
No, I'm going to get you some CBD gummies to sort of level it out.
Try some
You know what?
They don't even have,
you know what? They don't even have to be CBD. Just give me some gummies, and I think I'd be in a better mood. Anyway.
Katie, nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.